Yo.
Hey, what's up? Hello, hello, hello. How
All
are
right, how are we
you?
doing today?
I'm really sleep deprived actually. I sleep like shit, so we have that in common.
Nice. Okay, I'm glad we're both equally inhibited for this
Oh yeah,
conversation. That's
bad brain,
nice.
dude. Let's have some bad brain hours.
Okay,
Broken sleeps.
ready to get into it?
Brain, dude. Let's have some bad brain hours.
Okay,
Broken sleeps.
ready to get into it?
Well, yeah, do you want me to like do an intro? Do you want to introduce? I don't know how you do
Yeah,
your
say
streams.
who you
So,
are, and then I want to show the godforsaken Twitter thread that we were arguing over, and then we can discuss it bit by bit.
I mean, all right, sure. I mean, I kind of was hoping we were just gonna bring up the topics from the Twitter thread. I don't really want to go through like each individual tweet and like go through everyone's words because I think like we're both like hyperbolic and spicy weirdos on the internet. So I don't.
No, my main
I
criticism is that you're stupid on Twitter and I'm not. So I think it'd be very prescient of us
hmm.
to actually go through the stupid shit that you said rather than letting you to run it back and present some backpedaled version of what you
Why
said.
would I? Why would I do that? I'm coming here with good faith. So I mean, I don't know why you
We'll let the
feel the
chat
need to.
decide. Look,
I
backpedaling
don't
bad,
really.
okay?
I'm not backpedaling though. Like you're accusing me of something and we haven't even started. All right, everyone. Hello. My name is Mel. I am a B tier communist shit poster on the internet. I am DGG's favorite commie. I kind of hang out in the broader leftist sphere. I talk about communism. I talk about politics. I would love to talk more about queer stuff. But because I am a trans femme. Pronouns are she, they. So if you like neopronouns are the fucking best. Everyone should use them. They're 10 out of 10. And yeah, that's basically it. My name's Mel. I just hang out. I shitpost. I'm a fun old girl, and I'm here to talk to the wonderful Vosh, who I have been seeing do things on the internet for the last couple years now. So yeah, that's me. You can follow me at the hell app of at chaos as well, twitter.com. And yeah, thanks.
Nice. Okay, with introductions out of the way, let's get right to it. So before we even talk, I'm gonna play the video clip that spawned all this, just 23 seconds really quick so everybody has full context.
Oh hell yeah, let's go.
I'll let you know when it's done. I'm blocking my own webcam here. You know what? Let's not be zoomed in so you can't see how bad I am at Bloodborne. Okay, let's go. Look, I get overconsumption's a problem, but whether you like it or not, I mean, I want my fucking iPhones. I'm not on board for socialism if it means cutting standard of living to like a third of what it currently is. Oh boy. What's an acceptable amount to cut the living standard down? We shouldn't have to. What is the point of socialism if people's standard of living gets cut down? Look, okay, so that was the clip, and you're familiar, so you probably know what I just showed. And then you say, I cannot take white men who yell about socialism means everyone still gets to keep the same standard of living or it isn't socialism seriously. What about black people or people in the global south who the West profits from? The standard of living is a capitalist concept. Do you want to elaborate on that in any way?
I mean, I just want you to ask me like how you feel about like degrowth and how you feel about what I said. Like, I mean, I'm not going to defend anything that I said on Twitter because it's Twitter. So like,
Oh, then
I'm
I'll keep
coming here
attacking
for
what
you
you
to ask
said on
me.
Twitter.
Oh,
So
I would
first of
just like
all,
to.
the white men thing is pretty weird. I understand broader, like generalized criticisms, but I don't know what that has to do with my argument here.
Well, I mean, I'm a person of color, so if I say the word white, I think I'm allowed to, right? Like, who cares?
I didn't
Like,
say
that's just
you're
silly.
not. I didn't say you're not
That's legit.
allowed to, but it's pretty weird.
Why do you think it's weird?
I think it's a little weird
Why does it
for me to
upset
make
you?
an argument and for people to dismiss it by implying that my whiteness has something to do with the non-validity of that argument.
Okay, so let me push back on this first 1 second, and then I would like to get back on the subject, but I do want to say this. So when we're talking about people of color, when we're talking about marginalized folks, when we're talking about anybody who is not living in the imperial court, when we're not talking about when we look at how capitalism and imperialism has impacted the rest of the world for the last 400 years, no one when I say that this is a white person talking, it's not saying that like Vosh is white, don't listen to him because he's white. It's that generally like whiteness carries a perspective that is it outweighs any other kind of marginalization. It outweighs all kinds of other factors in the discussion that you're having.
So
if you're
it's
talking
not
about
you dismissing it because I'm white, but it is.
no, because your whiteness is heavier than any other marginalization that you have, and that's just a fact.
What does
If we're
that have to do
talking
with the
about,
argument that I made? Why not critique the argument? Why does it
I
have
mean,
to be my race?
I can totally critique the argument, but like that's just the hyperbolic statement that I'm saying. So you wanted to know why I said it. I'm giving you the I'm giving you the reason why I said it and what it means.
That's
It's
not what
not like,
hyperbolic means. Hyperbolic doesn't mean calling a person white in a way that implies that that's in some
but
way impugning my ability to make a coherent argument.
do we
Also,
want to
this
go
is
over the
liberal
definition
identity
of
politics.
hyperbolic? That's not identity politics. That's intersection. Like you have to be intersectional when we're talking about
the idea that my argument is less valid, or that its validity is in some way. Hold on. Or that the validity of that argument is in some way determined by my race.
It's not about being. It's not about being invalid.
No, wait. You just said that my whiteness weighs on my perspective more than any other marginalization, and you did that so because that influences my perspective. So what you're saying is my race, in some way, shape, or form, influences the validity, or at least the thought process behind my takes.
No. Now, I'm not saying it's because you are white that influences that is how your perspective is going to come across to like people of color. And so
I think people of color are perfectly capable of grappling with my arguments without impugning me for being white.
There's already a bias there. That's all I'm trying to point out.
There's always a bias to everyone, but this is what lets people like Candace Owens get away with dismissing arguments because they're non-white. This is the definition of liberal identity politics. You give additional credence to arguments given by marginalized groups, and you and you take validity away from groups or arguments made from groups that are privileged. This is, in addition to being a bad way of determining which arguments are valid, is also incredibly effective for conservatives.
I don't know why you. Okay, can we like talk about degrowth, please? Like, I don't know why you're fixated on this race thing because I don't care. I wanted to talk to you about degrowth the entire time. Like,
don't worry, we only have about a dozen more tweets to get through, and then we can talk about the abstract ideas in their totality. I'm not going to give my wait. Hold on. I don't want to give my audience the impression that you act in good faith. I have plenty of evidence that you don't.
So why would you even bring me on here if you're not even going to just give me the fair and balanced like TM, like just I say my arguments, you say yours, and we kind of see where we meet and you know not meet.
So
like,
let me ask you: are you saying that your arguments on Twitter are so bad that you're unwilling to defend them in a public setting?
No, I will actually elaborate on anything you want to talk to me about, but I think it is more productive for your audience, for me, and for you to have a conversation that is not fixated on just the content of Twitter.
Well, I think that the content of the Twitter discussion frames the entirety of the discourse.
Well, not always, because like I'm obviously like, I mean, I don't like to take I don't take everything that you say on Twitter for face value.
You should.
I do know that you get.
I don't say dumb shit on Twitter.
You get no, I don't think. It's not about whether you say dumb shit on Twitter. It's that anyone can say anything on Twitter. And so generally when anyone says a take or an idea, I try to not take everything with a grain of salt. I don't like literally see something on Twitter and go, that's exactly what that person believes in. I usually
then
like,
why don't we go through these so I can clarify how serious you are?
If I can look at something and I go, oh, I think this person's like kind of shit posty or being memey, I just like don't care. It's
so
like,
first of all, then why don't we go through these tweets and you can tell me what you meant and what was memey or shit posting? And second of all, you're lying right now because you quote tweet me all the time. You quote tweet me or you take screenshots of me on Twitter and impugn my ideas constantly. The idea that you just play live and let live with Twitter conversations is factually incorrect. You play serious with them until somebody holds you to account for the stuff that you say. In which case, oh, it's Twitter. Oh, it's just hyperbolic. Oh, no. Let's talk about the ideas. Well, I want to talk about the ideas. But why don't we start that by clarifying what it is you believe in the context of our conversation?
Here's the thing. I don't. Okay, so let me back this up. How serious do you want to have this conversation with me?
I'm quite prepared to have a serious conversation about our conversation.
So if you want to have a serious conversation, then I would expect you to have the maturity to just
ignore the stupid shit you say on Twitter.
Well, if you want, like, I mean, I say stupid shit on Twitter. We all say stupid shit on Twitter.
I will ignore everything on Twitter. I will drop the entire thing if you say these words. I say dumb shit on Twitter, and I do not want to defend it because it's not defensible.
Why are you boxing? Why are you boxing me into this corner? Why
You
do
get
I
one
have
or
to?
the other. It's defensible or it's not
No,
defensible. It's worth
no,
talking
no, because
about or it's not worth talking about.
that's not how that's not how basic communication works, or even implicitly implying any of the information that we looked at.
We can
You're
just
just you,
go right ahead. So let's talk about this. So I said, yeah, we're going to boost their standard of living too. That's they being black people or people in the global south. We'll make the entire goddamn world richer is what we'll do, which I think is a lovely sentiment.
Can I ask you something?
Sure.
How would we, the United States, how would we do that?
Well, I think it's the responsibility of American leftists to try to detooth our military industrial complex and our intelligence agencies, which would allow countries in the global south to develop with a little bit more autonomy. We can also try to do things to, say, for example, rein in our politicians domestically by focusing national attention on domestic issues. Black Lives Matter would be a good example of that. The more our agencies are dedicated to addressing social unrest domestically, the less they can do so abroad, which means we have less of an ability to fuck with countries like Bolivia or Venezuela or whatever.
Okay,
And
so
that would be a good way to help.
So how do we tackle the military-industrial complex?
That has
and,
nothing
like,
to do with
prison
the
system?
conversation about degrowth that we're going to have, and how to tackle
Well,
the
you just
military-industrial complex.
but you brought it up though. You brought it up, so I'm asking.
Do you want to talk about degrowth?
Yeah, but like you brought up you listed the things that we could do. So how does
Yes, I
how
did.
does
But
what,
you
what
realize you
does
could ask how fractally, and we could talk about any one subject forever. Now, I could have a conversation with you about the
not what
best
I
way
was.
to address the military-industrial complex, but that would be a different conversation. If you want to
It's
pivot,
not
you can
though.
do it the next time we
This
talk.
isn't a pivot. This is me just trying to like understand your framework, because I want to make sure that like I understand why you would specifically use the military industrial complex as a solution to sort of push us in that
So I see
direction
you're unwilling to
getting out of
address
the
the
global
point that I
south.
made there, so I'm going to move on to the next tweets because you're attempting to circumnavigate the conversation
No,
to a
I'm
completely
not.
unrelated point.
I'm just
Mel,
asking the.
a
I'm just trying to
conversation
ask.
on the
I'm
principles
asking for.
behind degrowth has literally nothing to do with the tactical strategy of addressing the military-industrial complex. These are not related.
I'm asking you politely for fucking brevity. I'm not trying to pivot. I am making sure that I understand
What do you
your
want to do with that
position.
information?
I just want to make sure that I understand your framework. Do you not know how frameworks work in conversation? I want to make sure I understand your worldview. So then when I ask my question,
That's not what a
that you can
framework
answer
is.
you can answer it correct. Yes, it is. I
A
need to know what
framework is
your.
ideological. You're asking me for pragmatic ways of disassembling the military-industrial complex.
No, I need to know like that's what your frameworks are. Your frameworks are how you would enact all of those policies and all those positions.
Frameworks are analytical.
How
what you're
how you
about is
view how
action.
you view how you
Ugh.
the framing of how you view the military could be different than my view of how I view the military
So
industrial complex.
do
I want to
you
know
or do
what
you
level we're
not
on.
want to reduce the power of the military-industrial complex in America?
I don't want to reduce the power. I want to eventually get rid of it from foreign, and domestic.
That is reducing its
bases.
power. What do you think reducing its power means?
That's not just reducing power, because it still retains power. It just retains power in the United States. It doesn't like the military can still be utilized to do things in America. But when you it's like basically
what do you want the military to do in America?
It's what?
Wait, I'm sorry.
When you
What do you want the military-industrial complex to do in America?
What do you mean what I want it to do in America? What question is that? What does that even mean? How is that related to what I said?
That's an excellent question. How is any of this related to what we're talking about? Do you want the
Because
military-industrial complex to be reduced in its ability to influence foreign affairs? Yes or no?
yeah, no shit, Sherlock.
Okay, wonderful.
Like
On this, we do not disagree.
Yeah, but it's not that we don't disagree on the concept, because anyone can agree or disagree on a basic concept. But what is your that? So this is okay. So the reason why I wanted to make sure it's really easy for us to agree and disagree on things, because broadly speaking, a lot of abstract socialist and leftist topics are easy to agree and disagree. We all know this. The important part of the distinctions of what separates me and you and our political ideologies and our principles is how much we feel we want to how much we feel about those sort of causes.
Because this does have nothing to do with degrowth, I mean literally nothing. We're talking about military action versus economic growth. How about you put a pin in it and I can answer this question once we're done with the Twitter thread? Does that work?
I suppose I'm
okay. Wonderful.
I don't know how. Okay.
So I said we're going to boost everyone's standard of living, and then you say, "Can you tell me how this works?" Really interested to know. That's fine. It's a clarifying question. So I say, you do
You
realize...
couldn't do that when I asked you before. Sorry.
Yeah, because this clarifying question was relevant to the discussion that we're having.
Oh, okay. So it's only relevant to this particular part, but it's not relevant when I ask you, like in the conversation.
It is relevant when we're talking about degrowth, Mel.
Well, everything's relevant about degrowth because the military-industrial complex impacts the global South and the economies there.
You do realize,
like, you do realize that, like, when the United States military sends contractors in northern Syria to guard oil wells to extract that oil out of Syria with the SDF, that is the military impacting the global South. And that oil does belong to the Syrians.
Why are you under the impression? Why are you saying this? I already said that one of the ways in which I would try to reduce the American influence in the rest of the world. Wait, hold on. You realize the only reason I brought up the military-industrial complex is because I know the thing that you just said. But we've already addressed this.
So if you know this, then why can't you say that?
Mel, because we're talking about degrowth. Mel, I know you don't want to go over these tweets. You can leave the call if you don't want to go over them. We have to get through them to get to the broader conversation. That is the price of entry.
You can just ask me.
So anyway,
you can just be a normal human being and just ask me how I feel about these things instead of reading every single tweet.
If I was talking to a Nazi wait, hold on. I was talking to a Nazi,
normal fucking human beings talk.
Wait,
no one just reads from a fucking tweet and goes, "Well, what did you mean by this and that and the other thing?" Like, that's ridiculous.
I'll be happy to explain. I'll be happy to explain this to you. So I talk to Nazis very often. Fascists.
I don't care if you talk to Nazis. I don't fucking care. I don't care. What does that have to do with this? I don't fucking care.
If you let me continue, then I'd be able to explain to you how it's relevant.
I know you debate Nazis, okay? We all know that's how you got...
Hey, Mel, come on. Now, I talk to people like that pretty often, and what I find they do is they act like absolute morons, or often they dog whistle on social media, but then when I talk to them in person, they lie to me. So I think that you're about as honest as a member of that group.
So I am now a neo-Nazi. You're going to call a trans woman of color a neo-Nazi.
Ooh, nice wait, hold on. Nice liberal id pull. Also, I said you're about as dishonest as one. Not that you are one. Thank you. And
but
yeah,
you're still comparing me to one.
For denying genocides, I don't know. So
why would you compare me to one?
Considering your propensity for denying genocides, I don't know. Maybe you got some cards up your sleeve. Who knows?
No. Why would I do that?
So anyway, let's continue. You do realize not all growth is driven by...
Why was that
I'll just mute you and then I'll continue. There we go. So, yeah, I will mute you because you're clearly unwilling to talk about this because you know the shit you say is incredibly fucking stupid and you don't actually want to defend it. So I'll just go, and when I'm done reading it, I'll let you on. You do realize not all growth is driven by colonialism, right? Full economic development worldwide under autonomous socialism would add billions to the modern labor force. Neocolonialism doesn't generate total wealth, it limits it while ensuring that the rewards are gained unequally. All right. Welcome back. Did you hear that?
No, I wasn't paying attention.
Well, do you remember the tweet?
Oh, no, I don't read. I mean, we can both play stupid if you want. If you're going to mute me, then I can just be stubborn about it. If you're going to be a child, I really sincerely want to have I've been wanting to have a mature conversation with you for like months now.
You're doing very good. Now, I wanted to talk to you about degrowth.
You're very condescending.
So wait, can I ask you just some yes/no questions? I know you have trouble with those, but I just want to know.
So
wait, that's a yes/no. Wait, that was a yes/no question.
If your entire thing is just to sit here and just say, ask me yes/no on every single thing that I believe in to extrapolate some kind of framework of what I believe in, but that's what everyone seems to do. So like.
So
if you're just going to
the reason why people ask you yes/no questions is because they don't think you're honest.
You don't know people. You don't because this is Twitter.
So when people no, this is a live stream, Mel. So wait, when people ask you, are the Uyghur Muslims being genocided, and you don't answer yes or no, is that because you're principally opposed to yes/no questions?
Why is this important? This is not important. I can't do anything for the Uyghurs, and neither can you. So can we talk about economic degrowth?
Wait, hold on. Wait. I can't do anything for Jews in the 1940s. Does it matter whether or not I say yes or no to the existence of the Holocaust?
That's a ridiculous comparison. Let's talk about
you just said you don't care about your answer because you can't affect it. That's the same for the Holocaust. The Holocaust happened 80 years ago.
That's a really silly pivot. Can we talk about degrowth?
You actually can't answer. This is why, by the way, it's very important to go over not what you want to talk about, but what you don't. You are an unfathomably dishonest person, and you clearly don't want to have this conversation.
I've been wanting to have the conversation about degrowth, but like you don't want to have it
No,
with
you
me
didn't at
you just
all.
want to read tweets and like try and dunk on me, and it's kind of silly.
So then
So
what's
would you
your
like to
opinion
talk
on
about
this
degrowth
tweet that
here?
is about degrowth?
I just want to talk about degrowth.
What is your
what is
opinion on the tweet that I provided? Do you
what's your
realize
definition? What's your definition of degrowth, Vosh?
I provided a tweet? Would you like to give me your opinion
No,
on it?
Vosh, what's your definition of degrowth?
All
Tell
right,
me.
then I'll move to the next set of tweets, and
Okay.
I will bring. I mean, if you can be quiet, you can stay here.
Can you tell me the definition of degrowth? Like
We
we've
have to
been
go through
trying
the
to talk
tweets, and
about?
then we can have
No,
a
we
broader
don't. We do
conversation.
not have to go through the tweets. That we don't have to go through them. I came here to have a conversation with you, but you know, if you want to be bad faith about this,
Mhm.
then you know.
Yes, going over a topic and trying to ask you direct questions that you refuse to answer is me being bad faith. So then,
How am I? Okay.
yeah, okay. So then you say, almost all the growth in the global north is from wealth and resources extracted from the global south in some way.
It's true,
Even
though.
if it isn't directly exploitative, it depends on the down-the-line commodified exchanges with capital that abuse fragile systems, see IMF, World Bank. You're literally doing the, well, I'm a first world socialist and I don't care about the global south stance. It's like, what? So the reason why I don't like these tweets very much is because nowhere in any of my tweets do I ever say, imply, or suggest that wealth in the global north is not derived from exploitation from the global south.
But why can't you just say that in your reply so I know that you know that, so I don't have to implicitly
did.
correct it?
Right here. I did in the reply directly. Nothing about this involves the global south. Economic development will make everyone on
But
earth
it
richer.
does, because that's where colonialization occurs, is mainly in the global south.
Right,
So I
and then
would
it's a
hope
good thing
you
that I
know
said
that.
in the previous tweet, autonomous socialism with full economic
Can you
development.
define me the word autonomous socialism?
Autonomous
Please?
means free from outside or foreign influence in the context of nation states, which is what we're referring to here. So
I thought we were referring
autonomous
to
economic.
well, autonomous is not nations. So the word autonomous never has referred to nation states. It's always referred to an economic policy. So can you define what autonomous and economic policy means?
So I think that anyone above the age of 4 reading this tweet and seeing the word autonomous socialism after full economic development could probably interpret that what I'm saying is that these countries, first of all, what you said is not correct. Wait, hold on. More gibberish isn't saving you here. You were incorrect in what you're saying, and I know more about econ than you do. So any reasonable person.
Why do you assume you do? Why do you assume?
Could
can't you
any
just treat me like
reasonable person?
equal?
Your question was gibberish, so I can't answer it.
Gibberish. You're not treating me like an equal. You're just assuming that I'm stupid this entire conversation. Do you always?
I'm not
like,
assuming
just
anything,
down
Mel.
people?
So
yes, you are. You've never talked to me. You have never.
All right, muted. So anyway, I think that any reasonable person from this tweet could probably see that by autonomous socialism, I mean developing independently, like freed from the IMF and the World Bank and other neoliberal systems that are used to exploit the developing South. Okay. Oh. There we go. So I think
Can you give me
in this tweet,
can you give me the definition of autonomous, please, economically?
I did. And then I think in follow-up tweets, I also made it perfectly clear that I'm talking about economic development.
Do you know the definition of an autonomous zone financially, economically, is what this refers to?
Nobody's talking about an autonomous zone like Hong Kong. We're talking about autonomous economic development under socialism.
An autonomous zone isn't Hong Kong. An autonomous zone is an economic free state.
Yeah, hold on. Autonomous. Let's take a look at a Google definition. Hold on.
I asked you for the economics.
Number 1, having the freedom to govern itself or control its own affairs. So considering the fact that I specifically mentioned the Global South controlling its own affairs, following that up with a statement on how the IMF and World Bank actually do the work there.
The word that you said is economic autonomous development. That sounds like a whole phrase that has to mean something. What does that mean?
I cannot help you if you don't know what words mean. That's not a burden I'm willing to shoulder.
I'm asking you what the definition means, so I know what your working definition is. And I asked you for it, and you can't.
It meant.
Why can't you tell me?
The definition of autonomous, as I used it, was coincidentally what you can see the definition is if you Google the word autonomous.
I said autonomous economic zone, full phrase. I didn't say autonomous because I'm not a child. I know what the word autonomous means. Can you tell me what you mean by that?
I have already told you what the word autonomous means.
What is an no, I asked for autonomous socialist whatever that was. That is the word that I asked you for.
So, and then the last tweet interaction, because it petered
Okay, so
off
you're
after
not going
there.
to tell me your definition. You're just going to use
I have
anonymous.
already provided the definition. You're just trying to stall the conversation as much as you can.
I'm not stalling. I want you to tell me, but
So,
you won't tell me for whatever reason.
The
You'll
funny,
just mute me again.
the last thing in the Twitter interaction here. So I asked this. This is a direct yes/no question. I know you don't like those. Could a nation in the global south uplift itself through economic development, assuming it was able to maintain political autonomy and develop in ways which served its own people and not the business interests of the West? I think this is a really, really good question because it directly corrects the problem that you seem to have, rather than just using.
It just anyone can read that and agree with it. But what do you stand for principally with those things?
So wait, you agree? Wait, you agree then that a nation in the global south could uplift itself through economic development
with it being completely removed? Yeah, but that's what any nation, though. That's obvious. Anyone with a basic economics degree knows this.
That's crazy. So if we could develop a geopolitical system that had foreign interference reduced, more countries. Wait, hold on. None of this tweet thread, the entirety of this tweet thread, where you were saying, I'm white, I'm a neoliberal talking point haver, what have you. Oh, you said it was a neoliberal talking point to say that you should increase economies. So that was good. You know, neoliberalism means whatever.
No, it's how you are uplifting. Most of the time when most of the time when countries are trying to uplift countries in the global south, they're using sort of things like the World Bank, or they're using.
Have I ever advocated for the World Bank? Can you find a tweet or a video or anything of me advocating?
It's not that you are directly advocating for the World Bank.
Oh, but me saying autonomous socialism and then later clarifying, saying uplift itself in ways that serve its own people and not business interests of the West. Have I not sufficiently indicated?
I mean, like, it's fine. I'm just disappointed. I'm just kind of disappointed in you. Like, I just figured this was going to be a pretty, like, I don't know.
So you don't have an answer. So you know that I clarified my point perfectly well and you were being deliberately obtuse. By the way, this was a yes/no question, and you didn't answer it. Afterwards, you said, I'm not doing a lengthy, dumb Twitter fight with you, after you had quote-tweeted every single reply to maximize your fans' engagement on the subject.
I don't have fans. I just have people that like shit posts that I say on Twitter. I don't know why you...
So we've done it. We've gotten through the tweet thread. Let's just talk about the ideas now. That wasn't so bad. It could have been over in about 3 minutes if you hadn't been so obstinate, but if I were you, I wouldn't have wanted to go over those either.
Is this a win for you? Do you feel good about yourself?
Every interaction I have with people on your intellectual level is by default a win for me. So
why are you saying intellectual level?
Because I think you're stupid and dishonest. I think the dishonesty is the worst one, by the way. I'm totally okay with like having dumb people on from time to time. Sometimes I'm friends with them.
Okay, so this is just a game to you, right?
No.
Is this the
grift? No, I take this very seriously. I think you do measurable harm to the discourse.
Oh, what am I hurting then? Tell me, who am I hurting?
First of all, wait. There are a couple million Uyghur Muslims that are currently in the process of being persecuted by the state.
What am I physically doing? How am I physically
doing? Okay, so we're eliminating all internet action. I don't know what you do in real life with your physical body.
So what? So then I obviously can't do anything.
Wait, so if I'm talking to a Nazi and I'm like, I think you do harm online with your shitpost, they're like, I mean, in real life, what am I doing?
I'm not a Nazi, so why are you comparing me to them?
Because the point there wasn't your ideology. It was the idea that the only way to measure harm is by physical actions you take in the real world. That was very dishonest of you, Mel. I wasn't comparing you morally to a Nazi. I was pointing out that the argument would also be disingenuous if it came from them. Your ideas are harmful. You share them through communication.
Oh, okay. I'm so sorry.
See? They do that too. Oh, libtard. You don't like racism.
I didn't call you a libtard.
So this is why I called you stupid. You don't seem to understand how analogies work. So I'm not comparing the things you believe. I'm comparing the ways in which you're dishonest.
But it's an unnecessary analogy that doesn't prove anything. Now, if the analogy proves
you don't understand it, so I imagine it's very confusing when I say
it. Understand it. Oh, okay. So again, we're going to be condescending.
Wait, if I compared you to say like Joseph Stalin, would you be like, I don't have a black hair. Wait, you do have black hair. What's an example? How tall was Stalin? I'm not that tall.
I'm actually taller than Stalin, by the way. He was like 5'1".
Let's say Stalin was 5'1". I don't know. I'm not 5'1". Okay. You compare me to Stalin. I'm not 5'1". You seem to be missing the point of the comparisons.
Not really. The comparisons are just a little innocuous and silly, and they don't.
You don't seem to understand them, so I don't know if you're in a good position to determine how worthwhile they are.
I mean,
So do you
I'm
want
not
to
a
talk about
Nazi.
degrowth? Here, do you think that we can improve the world economy for every single person living on Earth today while also reducing the inequality in the global market?
It depends on what kind of exploitation is going on. So when I look at like degrowth essentially means that we have to restructure the economy in a way to where we minimize the amount of exploitation that we are doing. The problem is a lot of the resources that we require to function our society primarily come from places that are in the global south, especially with like computers and cell phones and these things like that. So there are like raw conflict minerals. So these things are like diamonds, cobalt, tungsten, lithium, and the expensive amount of labor that needs to go into extracting those minerals. 'Cause it's very, very expensive to pull lithium out of the ground. You can't just like show up and pull it in. It requires a lot of like infrastructure. So you have to build the infrastructure in the country and give those workers good conditions, make sure that they're safe, create logistical support so they can move those minerals out of that country, make sure that those workers are getting paid properly, and all has to be done through cooperation, through like borders, international trading, and all these sorts of things. And you have to make sure that like you're only taking as much as that you need. Now the problem is in the United States we hyper consume things. We look at capitalism and Bitcoin and all of these kinds of methods, right? So Bitcoin is incredibly environmentally toxic, just like NFTs, right? So these things require lots of computers to put all these things into the blockchain, and so we need and computers can't process forever. They're going to burn out. So when they burn out, we need more chips. Where do we need to get those chips? Well, we need to get those parts from.
I noticed that
lithium.
none of this has anything to do with the question that I asked.
How does it not?
Because I was asking you if you believe we could uplift the quality of life for every person on Earth while minimizing or reducing market inequality. I understand that there are ways in which we inefficiently consume resources.
Yeah, but that's the point is like we can't without like completely like restructuring like whole economic systems.
So if we could restructure economic systems,
in order to uplift groups that don't have the proper systems, we have to provide them for them in some kind of way. But we can't do it to where we're like sending in a military or using unfair like trade regulations, because a lot of times if people are going to want to invest in a foreign country, they're going to want to get more out of it. We're not going to want, like capitalists and industrialists, they don't want to have these people get paid well. So
wait,
we have
again, we know this is a socialist channel. I'm asking you, do you think? I know you don't. I'm aware, and I don't think you're a socialist either. So the feeling is mutual. Do you think we could make
I didn't say you weren't a socialist. Why are you throwing in these little ad homs? I don't think you're not a socialist.
Like, I don't think you are then. But do you think that we can uplift?
Hey, if you're gonna look, if you're just gonna give me ad homs,
believe we can do this?
No, Bosh. If you're going to give me ad homs, look, let's have a conversation where you stop doing ad homs, where you stop just throwing in these little snipes because you look and you sound like a child. It's not liberal civility politics. You just sound like a child.
I think you're about as disingenuous as actually you're significantly more disingenuous than that Canadian Nazi I had on before. At least he was upfront about the stuff that he believed. So wait, hold on. The only reason.
Why are you so obsessed with this?
Wait, again, you don't understand the comparison. Can you explain the comparison that I just made?
Because I'm just a stupid dumb fuck Tankie, am I?
Can you explain the comparison that I just made? Like, what was I comparing?
I don't care about your Nazi comparison.
You can't. This is why. Wait, hold on. This is why I'm mean to you. You're either unwilling to or incapable of even processing the points that I'm making. Probably because you didn't come on here expecting to be criticized for the stuff that you said.
Because I figured you were going to talk about Twitter, so I mean, it's whatever. I actually very much expected that, by the way.
You've obfuscated every stage of this conversation, and you're still doing it because I'm asking you, do you think it's possible to exceed the current standard of living, the material production, the productivity of every country on Earth, to elevate it and to equal it?
No. Not in the current state that we're at right now.
We cannot do that. Current state. Obviously, the current state is what it is, but with changes made.
What does the hypothetical matter? Like, what is okay, Bosh? Agreeing on a hypothetical.
Wait, you realize socialism doesn't exist in the real world? Would I be like, hey, do you want socialism? And you're like, yeah, and I'd be like, why does the hypothetical matter? What does that even mean? Do you think there are changes that we can make to our system?
Obviously, that's such an obvious fucking yes.
That's great. Then we agree.
It's child shit. It's like child shit.
It's
like,
child shit to believe that there are advances we can make technologically and socially to uplift everyone on Earth while mending economic inequality. That's child shit to have that goal in mind. We could probably do it with the level of technology we have today. We probably could. I believe that.
Tech doesn't actually. Well, but the thing is okay. I don't disagree with you that we can't do it with the tech level that we have. The problem is the current level of tech distribution in the world is incredibly uneven.
That's a social problem. Why do you keep answering my questions in ways that ignore the premises of my question? Yes, with changes made.
But how do you do those changes? Like, what are those changes going to be, though? You're not
so you acknowledge then that my original point was correct. You're just a stickler for details. You want to actually talk about it.
No fucking shit.
So then you're on Twitter then, you were just wrong. I was correct. You said I was incorrect, but you weren't actually saying I was incorrect. You were saying, could you elaborate further? You were acting as though you disagreed with my belief when all you were actually apparently doing is saying I didn't elaborate enough while fighting a Bloodborne boss.
What?
Okay, wait, I'll say it again, but slower. So you agree with my belief that it is possible to uplift everyone and bring about equality, but on Twitter, you didn't. I laid that point out clearly, and you kept disagreeing with it by implying I was like pro-IMF, even though I very clearly indicated otherwise. So everything on Twitter, we can just wipe away. I can see why you didn't want to talk about that. Now, if we're to talk now about, yes, it is possible to uplift everyone, and yes, we can address equality, how do we do it? Then I think that's a wonderful conversation. But that's not the conversation you wasted my time with last night. It's a different conversation.
Oh, I mean, I just muted you. I didn't hear anything that you said because you've been doing it to me.
Gotcha. So do you then think that, so you think it's possible to do this?
I think overwhelmingly that we can influence overall growth within the world geopolitically. If we make the quantitative steps to reduce our overall impact that we are putting on in terms of exploitative terms on the global south, which I think most people agree with. Now, I think the contention is how we get there and what we do with that.
No, you at no point on Twitter said, how do we do this? Or you said or after I explained how we did this, you argued with the premise, not with the means by which you achieved that premise. You didn't believe that.
I've always... What?
Wait, the original video of me playing Bloodborne was me saying, what's the point of socialism if it lowers the standard of living? I want to be able to keep my iPhone.
Okay, can I ask you a question?
Wait, what was wrong with that video if you agree with my statement then?
Can I ask you a question?
Can you answer
Are you willing to give up your iPhone so someone else can live better?
Like conceptually, like
no,
if there was some sort of, well, I mean, do we mean like a government policy? Like get rid of that?
Are you willing to live in a lower standard of living, like live in a smaller apartment or house or wherever you live in the Pacific Northwest? Are you willing to live are you willing to change your lifestyle, change your position, how you live, so that we can, all kind of live a little bit more equal?
Wait, so me personally does this for everyone, or you mean there's a bit more economic austerity? You're advocating for austerity politics here in America.
That's not austerity.
You are by definition arguing for austerity. Are you asking me if I'm willing to embrace austerity for equality?
No, that's not austerity.
Okay, let's go to Google again. Hold on.
How is subtracting the amount of living that you take austerity? Like how is downsizing austerity? That's not austerity.
I'll leave that one to the historians. So, you're advocating for like austerity.
I'm not advocating for austerity.
You just repeated the definition of austerity.
That's not the definition of austerity.
That is how austerity manifests. Yeah. People say, tighten your belts. We're going to need to reduce the deficit. But if state resources are being dedicated to fixing inequality, then that would be austerity.
I'm asking you, people lowering the standard of living so people can equalize the economy is not austerity. It's only austerity when the government is incentivizing programs that completely move entire industries to other parts so like
Wait,
so
you
for
think
example,
austerity is when you outsource jobs? What?
I didn't say
You
outsourcing
said
jobs.
move industry from one part to another.
That's not outsourcing.
You,
You have to move jobs all the time in the United States, depending on climate, depending on markets. Like
look, if you okay, you can spend some time with a dictionary later. I can't help you on this one. Okay,
what do you
so
mean?
wait,
You
so so just so I can understand. So are you saying like the United States government
moving jobs
taxes?
isn't outsourcing. That's
Okay.
just factually fucking wrong. Me saying you want to move
No, it's
jobs from
okay. I
another part
can't.
of the country is
I'm so I
normal.
can't help you with this one.
That's how logistics work.
I can't lead
Jobs
you
don't
out of this
stay in
forest.
jobs just don't stay in one place for decades. They have to like.
I,
Why do you think the auto manufacturers like got phased out?
I
Because there
can't.
wasn't any more jobs
I
there.
can't bring
Like,
you out of this forest. You're going down a road I
what do
can't
you
follow,
mean?
Anakin.
This isn't. How do you not understand?
No, it's okay. Okay, I'll take the L. You know what? I'll take the L. Okay, I'll take the L. Austerity is when jobs move. Okay, okay. Austerity is when jobs move.
True.
Okay, no, it's fine. Austerity is when jobs move.
You don't know definitions. That's so unbelievable. You literally think me saying jobs moving from one part of a country to the other is outsourcing?
Okay, no, you're right. You're totally right. Okay, so anyway, so how is this happening? Is the government like taxing everyone more, and because I'm wealthy, like a lot of my wealth gets taxed?
No, it's not a wealth tax. It's
then
literally
by what mechanism is my standard of living being reduced? I just want to know because it affects my answer.
It doesn't affect your answer. You can't even answer the yes or no. You can't even do it.
I'm asking a clarifying question. How is my standard of living being decreased? You were the one who was a stickler for details earlier. You should be able to answer this. Are we talking government policy? Are we talking a price hike in commodities or in rent because of relative scarcity of goods because we're no longer buying them from the global south? Are we talking about like activist groups that are willfully through like cooperative measures trying to reduce their standard of living for the benefit of the planet? What mechanism is being used here?
Does it matter what mechanism we want to use? Like, are you willing? Okay, fine. What if we just all of them? Which one would you be okay with? Like, what do you not like? What methods do you think make sense for you? Like, what as a socialist, if you like, obviously, like austerity is bad. Like, I don't like austerity, and neither should you. So no, I don't think the government should be like taxing us more or forcing us to move. Like,
you don't want the government to tax us more? I think I pay too little in taxes.
You don't want the government to tax you more on commodities if commodities in the global south are more expensive, because that doesn't remove resource extraction away. It's a band-aid effect. That is essentially
what I'm guessing then is you're talking about trade being
that is what austerity is.
Okay. So I'm guessing what you're saying then is that in this example, trade is being cut off from the global south, which means that we have to buy our
being cut off. It's logistically being changed. So like
it's being logistically changed, so we have to get more of our resources from the developed world, which of course costs more, and that means that everything in America gets more expensive and people have to live more austere lives for a time. But it benefits global economy because it allows the global south to...
It's not just us living a slightly lower standard of living. It's making sure that the same exploitative measures that happen in both places, like the parasitic relationship between the exploiters and the people that are being exploited, are as even as possible.
Which leads to an increase in commodity prices, right?
It can. It depends on what those commodities are. So like if it's commodities that are like artificially inflated. So like, okay, so sugar, for example, sugar is artificially inflated in the United States. So is corn. Corn and sugar are artificially inflated because we grow so much of it, and to keep costs low and to keep it cheap for producers, and like high fructose corn
syrup, which would lead to an increase in the cost of commodities when it got shipped to America.
Well, the thing is it depends on where we're growing it to. So like say we stop buying sugar from like Cuba and like the Caribbean, and we start growing it in Florida, and we start growing it in all of these places. Then we have to completely change logistically the mode of production. We have to completely change how we operate. And so it's not really like austerity at that point, because austerity would mean we would be having to basically pay less taxes we wouldn't be paying taxes on sugar, because
I don't know why you keep avoiding this, but yes, what you're saying is that a change in the global trade relations between us and the global south lead to an increase in commodity prices. Yes, that's what you're saying. You can talk around it all you want, but that's what you're saying. So you're asking, would I be willing to accept a cut to my standard of living, and every other American standard of living, because we all buy commodities in these states, if it would mean fairer trade relations between the developed and the developing
It's not
world.
just fair trade relations. It's seeing how much of things it's literally changing how we produce things domestically and how we trade internationally. It's not just trade relations.
Okay,
It,
that's a
it is a
component of
complete
trade.
Degrowth, the theory of degrowth is essentially the entire restructuring of the entire economy. It's not just people like making a little less money. It's not just changing trade. It's not just resource extraction.
Are you like allergic to clarifying? Okay, I
overall.
think we all know what's being referred to here, and it would lead to exactly what I am talking about. We were talking about this in relation to my standard of living, in which case the thing that would become more expensive would be commodity prices. Housing prices would also go up because we also get lumber and metals from other countries. Building new houses would become more expensive. Also, if our immigration system laxened up a little bit, that would mean that more houses would be produced, but it would also mean that more people would come to the States, which would increase the cost of living. So
But people wouldn't be coming to the States if we were changing the way we extracted resources, because those jobs would be staying in the global South. So it actually would
people would come
neutralize
to the States because they love our freedom. All right. So anyway,
No, you can't just say that.
Please, Mel, I'm just trying to answer the question you asked so many years ago. The answer is yes. The answer is yes.
It's not a yes or no answer. These
You
things are
asked
way
me
more.
a yes or no question.
But I don't think you understand the impact of the question.
I did. No, I do. But I was asking about it in context of the relevance of my standard of living. The answer is yes. The answer is Mel. Yes, the answer is yes. But I don't think we should have to. I think there are ways to address this that don't lead to.
So then why would you agree with it if you don't think we have to? Then you actually don't agree with it.
No.
That's such a
Hold on. Wait. Hold on.
Argument.
I think what you've advocated would improve the world, but I think there's a way to improve it further that would not require that. But if all I could choose what you described, I would support that.
Okay, but how would you do that though?
How would
if you think that we can do it, then how would we do that?
Okay, the answer's a little complicated. Do you want me to just ramble for a bit?
Sure, that's what I was here for.
Okay.
I wanted to know actually how you feel about it, but like you wouldn't get there. You wanted to talk about Twitter and genocide bad, woo, and all this other bullshit and calling me a Nazi. Like, fuck, just tell me what the fuck you believe in.
Crazy.
I don't know.
That whole genocide denying thing really stands out. It's really a personality highlight. It's just like
it's a fun meme, everyone.
It's a fun meme. Oh yeah. And who knows why I called you a Nazi, you know? There could have been any number of reasons why I might have drawn that relation.
I'm not a Nazi, silly. Come on.
No, you're not a Nazi, but you do things they do.
No, I don't. I don't do anything that Nazis do. I'm a good old-fashioned communist that lives in America.
Yes. So anyway, okay, the answer is complicated, and I'll try to. No, I'm not going to try to speak slow. So first of all, America cutting off even slightly trade.
Speak slow. No, speak slow, Bosch. I want to hear you speak slow.
Sure. If America cuts trade relations or significantly reduces them with certain parts of the global South, an interdependence that we have formed will be reduced or possibly broken, which would make it less economically devastating for us to contrive reasons to destabilize their governments or invade their people. Likewise, the American people, if they were subjected to economic austerity as a product of our desire to make global trade relations more equal, would probably lead to them being war-hungry. Americans, like people of any other country, are generally self-interested and don't really give a fuck about people outside their borders, though admittedly Americans do this quite a bit more than any other country I can think of. So my concern about those behaviors and that response is that it would lead to an isolationist and militarily aggressive United States that would end up trying to ameliorate the commodity price hike by invading other countries and forcibly reestablishing essentially colonialist trade relations. My belief, my hope, is that it's possible to take advantage of the coming climate change destabilization to weaken America domestically to the extent that non-government agencies from America and places in the global South with weakening trade relations to America can develop economic autonomy in a way that still fosters American economic dependence, so they can't invade, but also allows those countries to industrialize past, say, sweatshops. This system could simultaneously enrich the global south and keep America's hands off the rest of the world. Because the more economically prosperous these countries become, the less likely an invasion from America or even like foreign interference can be. The more developed a country is, the more democratized a country it is, the harder it is for America to interfere. That just seems to be the way the world works. It's easier to interfere with autocracies. It's easier to interfere with poor countries. We want to make these countries wealthy. We want to have them form international trade blocs so that countries in Africa and countries in Southeast Asia can work together to form blocks of commodity exchange that are comparable, at least a little bit, to the EU, America, and China. And if they do that for long enough, they might be able to form a kind of economic interdependence that allows them to fully break free of American trade relations in an exploitative sense, and then they are on equal playing field. They're too powerful and too interconnected to invade. Plus, if America tried to install a new government, the rest of the world would be mad at America because now we've destabilized a highly industrialized and technologically advanced country, and for that reason, we are cutting trillions out of the global economy for years to come. That's my dream. International trade relations and trading blocs to fight American and Chinese economic hegemony are the best shots that we have at developing the global south. Now, the best thing about all of that is that these trading blocs are they increase productivity. The more they develop, the more productive they become, the more wealth they generate. There is always more wealth to be found. And we're limited not by trade relations, but rather by our ability to grow without destroying the planet. If we invest trillions into green energy, which we are capable of doing internationally, we can scrub carbon from the skies and from the ocean, we can reinvigorate our planet, and we can do it without ever taking precious iPhones away from dumbass American white boys who are bad at Bloodborne. That's my dream. I think that's the better answer. I think that's the best thing that we can do.
So there's a couple things that I'm curious. Why NGOs? Because the reason why I say this is because historically, and we can look at this, most of the global south has had incredibly bad relationships with the trade deals and agreements that have been forged with NGOs. So if this mistrust is there, how do we reassure those people that these NGOs are not going to take advantage of them or end up being, I guess, exploitive, not in the way that is as bad, but they're still participating in the same behavior that could potentially, it could backfire, right? Like interest could change, obviously. Yeah. So like the NGO could maybe see a window into going into, say the NGO is like, they start doing this for a couple of years, things start going well, and then, we elect somebody else in the United States that has different interests, right? Because I don't see the thing that's confusing about like this point is America has an election cycle every 2 to 4 years. So like how do we stop another Democrat or a Republican that wants to do something maybe more war hawkish or more isolationist? Like how does this impact how we have that relationship between the state, the NGO, and the country that we're trying to enrich, or the country that's trying to enrich itself?
Well, I want the NGOs to be there in a humanitarian capacity, not an economic one. I read a study.
But what if they don't want them there?
Well, if they don't want them there, that's their right. But I read a study that when humanitarian NGOs set up shop in developing countries, it makes the likelihood of negative foreign interference less likely. It decreases that. Because, if you're like a mercenary, force that America sends in, if you kill 100 like indigenous natives or whatever, that doesn't make news. You kill one doctor from Chicago, and that makes international headlines. So I've heard that putting humanitarian NGOs there can go a long way towards preventing.
So I disagree. Just like, so like when we look at so like places like Rwanda, for example, where a lot of resource extraction was taking place, like in the Belgian Congo. There was a lot of like industrialization that was happening with Africa, like post-colonialism, and there was a lot of like ethnic tensions left over from that like post-colonialism and new industrialization that happened in Uganda and Rwanda and like the Belgian Congo. And there were NGOs there, and so like the NGOs that were there at that time was like Doctors Without Borders and all those people. When the genocide was happening and when like the civil wars were breaking out, the Europeans just took the NGOs home and just kind of let it happen. There was no UN peacekeeping mission besides just observers. There was no intervention. So
I don't think
it
it's a
seems
perfect
to
solution. I just think that it has the potential to catch some eyes on the situation.
but we have historical evidence to prove that it's not as effective. So why would we keep doing it?
Wait,
Like what
wait,
what
we're not.
assures that
It's
it
not
doesn't
we.
happen again?
It's an NGO. If NGOs want to set up shop in these countries, and those countries accept the aid, be it medical or logistic, and they set up there, those are generally American citizens, usually people who have direct connections to journalist groups that are now within that country. If they are killed or if something happens to them, more attention is paid than ever could if something happened to the resident, like native people of that country. And for that reason, I think it's a good stopgap. Doesn't fix every problem, and I obviously wouldn't advocate for NGOs to be put in these countries if they were A, unwanted, or B, obvious fronts for neoliberal influence. But I don't think that Doctors Without Borders is out there like pushing neoliberalism.
No, I don't think so either. I just wanted to clarify because my only issue with NGOs, especially within like the developing world, or even NGOs like the United States, is that more often than not, they don't engage in active exploitation or active coercion for the state. But like if there's an election or lobbying or some kind of thing, like this requires politicians to be corruption free as well. Because NGOs, despite being, you know, the non-government actors that they still are kind of owed to their governments based on their citizenship or national origin or allegiance or all those things. They can still act within the self-interest of those countries if they
can't wait. Hold on. So nothing that I said to you was, under my impression, an easy thing to do. It's going to be an uphill battle to fix these problems. I think that this is a narrow way to improve the situation, but of course there are always going to be potential problems with corruption, or, I mean, it could turn out that everyone at Doctors Without Borders is like a secret neoliberal and they all came
No. I'm not trying to say that. That's a stretch. What I'm saying is I just want to make sure.
I just think that generally, I've just read positive stuff. The fact, by the way, that the EU had to pull those NGOs out of Rwanda is an indication, though, that they're more cared about than the people native there. And that probably made headlines back when it happened. I'd have to look that up. I'd be willing to bet the news story NGOs pulled out by EU probably got more prominence than the beginning of the genocide. That we care more about our people than their people. And as unfortunate as that tribalism is, if we can exploit it for the benefit of a better world, then, I mean, you know.
Do you think it's worth exploiting, though?
Well, I mean, again, how does putting Doctors Without Borders in one of these countries like hurt the country?
No, I wasn't saying that was exploitive. I was saying how, I was saying, I was just clarifying because I wasn't sure if you meant, like, I don't think Doctors Without Borders is necessarily exploitive.
There are some good NGOs. Not all, there are a lot of bad ones, but there are a couple of good ones. I need to read up some more, but of course, it would be up to the country as well if they wanted.
Yeah, and the thing that sucks about NGOs is they're predominantly just, there's not like a list, right? Like an NGO could be good or it could be bad. And so when I was pushing you on this, I wasn't saying that you don't know this stuff. I just wanted to make sure that like the audience and everyone around us we all kind of know that like it is a little bit more complicated. It's not just, you know, a guy going in and doing a good thing. Because I genuinely like have the benefit of the doubt. Like I genuinely like to think that NGOs are good. The problem is some NGOs end up becoming think tanks, and I think think tanks are ultimately one of the worst. Like think tanks and lobbying is one of the worst political entrapments that we experience in the West, especially. So all those things are pretty bad. Something else that you said that I think was interesting is if we're going to so you mentioned China, and I don't want to get in the weeds about China. This is not the reason why I mentioned China. Do you think that are you seeing this like China, the United States, and then like the rest of the world? Is that like how you see like global trade kind of boiling down to, like, you know,
America,
we have like
the
two big
and China are the three great capitalist evils in the global trade market. Yeah, the rest of the world doesn't even come close.
So are you trying to say that it would be better for like the EU, the United States, and the PRC to just completely unilaterally multipolar world just kind of ease and sort of like give, like, are we allowing, okay.
They need to be made weaker.
Do you think, so how do you feel about certain like groups, like country, like, so, okay, so like, what about the EU? I'm trying to think of how to ask this. Do you think it's bad if the EU were to like set up their own sort of like Belt and Road initiative? The US sets up their Belt and Road initiative, and then China sets up their Belt and Road initiative. Because there's a lot of talk about this because I've seen this. So Europe actually, and I can't remember the name. I don't remember which countries off the top of my head. I just saw this recently, like a week ago. But there's a Mediterranean project that I believe the European Union is doing, and they're sort of like doing like their own kind of Belt and Road thing, from like Italy to like about Greece to North Africa. And a lot of the European countries are trying to form an economic trade zone with Northern Africa and the Mediterranean, which is sort of the same thing as China's Belt and Road, which is sort of the same thing as like America's, like, say, like TTP and like NAFTA, kind of like these like trade block sort of things. Do you still think those are necessary or are useful in terms of equilateral trade? Or do you
No,
think
I
we need
think
to? You think we need to move away from those in their entirety in your sort of prescription for
they're
what
all
you think we should do?
exploitative. A capitalist country is only ever going to fund investments like that if they think it pays dividends down the line. The Belt and Road Initiative is explicitly about trying to form economic power blocks that are allegiant to the Chinese government in areas that America and the West have typically ignored. And we've been doing our own Belt and Road Initiative for like 200 years. We did it with
I
guns and blood to begin with, and now we've started doing it with the IMF and World Bank. But yeah, the basic metric is exactly the same. You invest in countries up until the point where they're most useful to you and no further. China is probably smarter about this than we are, though. We tend to keep the countries that we control, through soft power, in dirt, whereas China seems to understand that allowing Africa to industrialize a little bit would significantly boost their economic productivity and thus their usefulness to the CCP. But yeah, I
But
still
I think
think that
there's a huge difference within. So like regardless, okay, so like I have mixed feelings on the Belt and Road, but I have mixed feelings on about every single trade deal. I don't necessarily think those trade deals are good or bad. I think they're necessary. Just because we don't have a lot of multipolar trade agreements anymore. Like the world is very much like big power, as you've said. This is all true. I think my only contention with, I guess, your opinion about the Belt and Road is like we don't keep those countries in dirt. We've turned them into dirt. We've bombed these countries. We've changed their governments over. We've put violent, democratically elected dictators in power, like Pinochet and Noriega. There was also the I can't remember the guy in South Korea in the 1970s. Like we've helped put these people in. To my knowledge and to everything that I've read, China is not letting these countries in Africa default on any of these loans. They've actually ended up saving Africa $10 billion as opposed to, like the European Union, who is like indebted these countries like to over 100 million.
well, yeah, it makes them
Um,
allegiant to China. That's the long-term
it's
goal.
I don't think they're allegiant to China. I think they're just accepting a more feasible option to industrialize than the
Why
IMF
do
and
you
the
think
World
China
Bank
would bother investing in these countries?
for trade because they can't use sea routes because the United States has blocked them in. It's a lot
You
harder.
don't think there's any
China does.
like soft power being exerted in the Belt and Road Initiative?
I mean, there might be, but like it's
If
like
America did the
it's
Belt and Road
kind of.
Initiative, you would immediately call it out for what it is. And
No, I
America has
wouldn't though.
invested significantly in relationships
Be-
abroad. I mean, for God's sake, the
The
Marshall
the
Plan.
difference the difference between Wilson's 14 points on the Marshall Plan and NAFTA is that those things were done explicitly through the barrel of a gun. China is not shooting anybody in Africa. China is not putting bases there in Africa.
Not yet.
Whenever they did put bases there, they were told they were not allowed to have them, and then those bases were actually converted to the native country or the not the native, but
Are
like
they?
the country where they have. Okay, but it's not happening. So the thing is the United States, though, we've traditionally have always done it through force. I'm not trying to say this isn't me
Yeah, our way is
bootlicking.
worse. Their way is
This
better.
isn't this isn't me bootlicking for China or saying that it's better. It's just if we're going to if we're going to say that both of these things are bad, we have to look at how bad they
Yeah.
are. And
Well,
I would say significantly that what America does is way worse than any initiative that the EU
okay,
and China is currently
hold on,
doing.
wait. We're running down this for a while. Okay. First of all, the idea that China doesn't flex hard power is ridiculous. They have an enormous military, and their relationship, their posturing for the past 50 years has indicated that they have every intention of eventually being able to exert the kind of military influence that America does. Nowadays,
Where's your evidence for the posturing?
I
How
what
do you know they're doing that?
what do you mean? What do you mean? How do I know they're doing that?
How are they
What about their
posturing?
behavior in the South China Sea? What about their involvement in the Korean War? What about Taiwan? Like, what do you
How's that
mean?
posturing? That's just, I mean, that's not posturing though.
What
Those
is
are
that?
things they did.
Uh-huh. To exert power, like militarily, to use their enormous military...
They supported the DPRK in the Korean War, but that wasn't posturing or exerting power. That was just allyship. We all do that. Every country does that.
Wait, hold on. How is using your military to get involved in neighboring conflicts to form a buffer state to prevent there from being American military bases on your border not a type of posturing?
The DPRK is in a buffer state.
The DPRK is absolutely a buffer state.
It is not a buffer state.
They are undeniable. Wait, hold on. The only reason China gives a single shit about the DPRK is because if they didn't, South Korea would become whole Korea, and then American military bases would be
That's factually incorrect. That is just historically factually incorrect with the history that has happened in Korea for the last 200 years. You are wrong. You do not know a fucking single thing about the history of Korea.
I'm absolutely correct on this one.
You are absolutely wrong. You do not know anything about Korea if you think that is the reason.
Why would China do that?
Why would China do what, Vosh?
Why would China stick its neck out during the Korean War to prevent a total conquest of Korea and then occupy it or support it militarily, putting their soldiers' lives on the line, and then hold that position? And then in the geopolitical conflict that takes place during that region,
because the Soviet Union was never going to help the Koreans, and China
doesn't give a fuck about Korea.
Yes, they do.
No, do
you know the historical ties between China and Korea?
That's not how
over the last 200 years?
states work.
That's
are you seriously arguing that they supported North Korea and allow that festering shithole of a dead monarchist state to continue to exist? Because they care?
They actually, but they do care in a way. It's not all geopolitics. Some of it is history.
Geopolitics. Wait, hold on.
No,
so
some of it
Marxism
is some of it is
until it involves criticizing China, and then we're getting sentimental. No, the reason why China maintains the existence of North Korea, the only reason, by the way, that North Korea hasn't...
No, that's just factually incorrect.
The only
do you know
reason
anything
it
about
hasn't imploded is because it's a de facto vassal of China, and the only
it's not
reason
a vassal
they want
of China.
That is because they don't want Korea...
That's just actually correct. You are basically saying that the Koreans have no self-identity at all, which they do in the North and the South.
North Koreans politically have nothing. You are correct in that. Absolutely nothing.
I didn't say that. That's not what I implied.
Wait, then we agree. They have nothing.
No, we don't. You have no evidence to substantiate that China and China and the DPRK just are only politically aligned. That's not true. It's not just politics.
Countries do things for other countries?
Do you not realize that they're not just countries, they're also people that supported each other?
I'm sorry.
During the occupation they both fought the Japanese fascists.
People don't make policies. Countries do. People vote, except in China and North Korea, by the way, where you have a failing remnant of a democracy and none. People aren't what we care about here.
You don't care about the people in Korea.
You sound like every liberal who's unwilling to acknowledge the existence of imperialism in America. Oh, why did America do the Marshall Plan? Well, we just cared about our European neighbors. We have history with them. No! It's geopolitics. Countries invest military and economic resources to protect their own best interests.
This conversation, I was a Nazi, and now I'm a liberal. Oh boy!
I know you're very ideologically idiosyncratic when it benefits you. The idea that China,
a world
superpower,
how does it benefit me, Vosh? Can you explain to me how it benefits me? What am I benefiting from?
Because if you weren't being those things, you would have to acknowledge that I am right. Okay, wait, hold on. Let me just say this to chat. Okay, hold on.
Map me telling you that I'm right.
China.
Oh, I have to acknowledge that you were right.
Yes. So just to be super clear to everyone.
You always want to be right, don't you?
It's preferable to the alternative. So chat, look. This is a map of China. This is a map of China. Wait, I just want to show them the map. It's a pretty map with colors, okay? So China is a big country, very powerful. There's South Korea. If North Korea reunited with South Korea in one Korea, South Korea would win that war for a wide variety of reasons. And then South Korea, which is practically an American military base, would then have military bases right up here along.
Not just a military base.
South Korea is heavily entrenched in American geopolitical and military strength. They're not as bad as Israel is in that respect, but they are in the ballpark.
I don't agree or like you framing my poem country as an American military base because
I'm sure. Wait, hold on. But I'm sure you don't mind when people say that of Israel, do you? But there are people to whom that is their home country. I saw you, by the way. You were, after the shooting in those spas, you were like, I wonder why AOC is spouting xenophobic rhetoric when she was criticizing China.
That wasn't AOC. That was Ilhan Omar, by the way.
Who
Can
cares?
you like remember the things that I say?
Criticize China? Well,
if you're going to criticize me, you might as well do it correctly because it was Ilhan Omar, not AOC.
Okay, so I don't think that criticizing a country is the same as being racist against its people. I don't. Think
I never
that
said
about...
you're being racist, Fosh. I just said it seems kind of a poor framing. I never accused you of being racist.
Wait,
Why did you
claim
jump
that about?
way?
Does anyone have that screenshot of what Mel? I can probably find it. You were pretty explicit about that.
Why are you saying that I was being? Why are you accusing me of saying that you're being racist?
Why are you looking at the things I say instead of just hearing the things that I say now? Why do you look at the things I say?
But you're not. I never. But come on. Oh, now you're gonna mock me.
Don't look at the things I say.
But I never. But you're assuming that I'm accusing you of being racist, and I never accused you of being racist this entire conversation.
No, it's just a funny. It's just a funny thing that you've done in the past that feels relevant to the.
It's not relevant at all, actually. It's just an ad hominem. We can move on from that.
Looking at UVG. Anyway, yeah. So again,
what I'm trying to say here is that like you obviously don't know anything about the history of that peninsula or the history of any of those people.
I'm sorry. If you don't think that this is a geopolitical thing, then I think you're shockingly ignorant.
No, it's actually way more than geopolitics. But you don't know anything about the global south.
Is it? If it's not geopolitics, what is it?
It's geopolitics, but it is
here
also.
It is. Sorry, wait. We can put an end to this. So Ilhan Omar said that she was devastated by the murder of 8 people in Atlanta, including 6 Asian American women. And then you posted her retweeting an anti-Uyghur Muslim genocide thing. No human rights, no Olympic Games in China. So essentially you said, because Ilhan Omar doesn't support China's genocide of the Uyghur Muslims, she has no right to mourn the death of 6 Asian American women.
That's not what I said.
This is more reprehensible than I actually remember it being. This is fucking disgusting.
That's not what I said at all. Do you want to read Radio Free Amanda's? Like, she did the same thing. We can read her idea too.
So wait, hold on. Well, then why this tweet? Why this tweet?
Oh, because I took Radio Free Amanda's idea because that'll be funny.
Okay, so what's the message being espoused here? What's the message?
I don't know. Do you want to scroll down and read the other person that said it too? Because apparently I'm too dumb and
you literally retweeted a post the other day comparing the Chinese government to Nazi Germany. And I know you have a problem with comparisons. Do you want me to explain the comparison to you?
No, I just wanted to know why you think both of our comparisons are bad, because we essentially said the same thing.
Wait, hold on. I don't think you understand what you just said. If you were agreeing with the assertion you just made, then you would agree that this meme is reprehensible.
Me and the other poster essentially said the same thing, and if you're this upset about a meme, then I think you need to go outside.
So wait, do you think Ilhan Omar has a right to mourn the death of those 6 Asian American women?
Why?
Do you think it's hypocritical for her to do so?
You asked. This is a silly question, by the way.
Dude, again, it's like I'm talking to a groiper. Wait, do you think it's hypocritical of her?
This is such a silly question. Like,
do you think it's hypocritical of her?
What does anyone get out of this? Me answering this?
This is what I mean. Chat, people in Twitch chat who are saying I was being mean to her. This is the person we're talking about. Anytime we have a decent conversation on geopolitics, it's in spite of, not because of her. Okay? She acts like a fucking groiper, except she wears a red flag. All right? This is why I say that Tankies are just red fascists. You're Pepe posting at this point.
Red fash doesn't exist. Red fash is not a word.
I bet you don't think it exists. Yeah. Well, you get to be red fash or fash, Mel, because you're sure as fuck not a socialist.
Which one is? Oh, I'm not a socialist.
Ilhan Omar, is it hypocritical of her to mourn the death of the 6 Asian American women?
Why does this is not relevant to anything that we've been talking about. You're just trying to box me in.
It really seems like you're saying that because she doesn't like genocide, she doesn't get that. Do you think that in some way those 6 Asian American women were complicit in the Uyghur Muslim genocide? Is there some relationship, some connection that I'm not seeing here?
Really weird that you...
I'm sorry? Is there a relationship here? Because I don't understand this meme. Can you explain it to me?
Why do you care about this tweet?
Why do you care? Guy, hey, don't look at my Twitter, guys. Why do you care about me denying genocide and then saying that other people are bigots for criticizing the existence of that genocide?
I did not say Ilhan Omar was a bigot. Where did I say that,
what did you say then?
I didn't say that she was a bigot.
What'd you say? Nothing, just memes?
Do you know what a contradiction is?
Just memes. Just memeing
people. Do you know what a contradiction is? Do you not know what like dialectical materialism is, or understanding the difference in between words and how like things we do in the United States are
Mel
just as
Fuentes.
applicable to other countries.
It's a shame you weren't like you didn't slide down the alt-right road, because you would be a spectacular groiper. You demonstrate about the same intelligence and
Really, I
intellectual
don't like
honesty.
Nazis, Vosh. I'm a trans person. Nazis are not
So,
great.
I've met trans Nazis. You could be one. Have you considered a
well,
switch?
No, never.
Really?
Nazis are terrible people.
Wait, they like genocide. You like genocide?
I do not like genocide. Genocide is very bad.
Curious. And yet the evidence shows otherwise. Really makes you think.
Not
Anyway,
really evidence. It's just literally me saying genocide bad and a pleady emoji.
The point that I'm trying to make to my poor beleaguered audience is that North Korea is a buffer state. It's the same thing that Soviet Union did with the Warsaw Pact.
North Korea is not a buffer state. Bosch is wrong. He is absolutely wrong about Asian politics, and he needs to stop talking about
I'll add another
Asian
one on. Also, Mel is xenophobic, okay? Mel is anti-Korean, because anybody who implicitly defends the political legitimacy of North Korea is somebody who despises the people who live there.
How am I anti-Korean if I'm Korean, Bosch?
Any truism? How am I anti-Korean if I'm Korean? Did I see it? Candace Owens, can we get a round of applause for this wonderful brain in chat? Please. You kidding me right now? Are you fucking with me, Mel?
So I'm Candace Owens. I'm a liberal.
You don't understand. You can't fathom.
I'm a red fash. Like, you're just using words, Vosh. Like,
yeah,
I
know you struggle with them, but hey.
You know what? You're someone who has always said that you are intellectually honest, and I was really hoping to have that with you, but for some reason it just evolved into ad homs, and I'm just kind of disappointed because I
looked at your Twitter and I asked you direct questions you didn't want to answer. And personally, I knew that you were anti-Uyghur Muslim. I didn't know you were anti-Korean people. That's really disgusting.
Why would I be anti-Korean when I'm Korean?
I hate them.
I hate.
You don't know anything about them. You're okay with geopolitical influence being exerted over them.
My own people. I was born in Korea.
Damn. Wow, that's super vicious then. Gotta chill with that, okay? These people say I hate white people, but gotta calm down with that.
This is a real good look for you, Vosh.
It's inconceivable to me that A, I could have a conversation with you and feel as though I'd done poorly, or B, that any of these sycophants who'd consider you a victor in this conversation could have had their mind changed through any behavior.
I'm not trying to be a winner or a loser here, Vosh. That's silly.
You don't have to try to be a loser, Mel. It just comes naturally.
Socialism isn't about winning or losing. Socialism is about building community and getting us to the glorious revolution.
Socialism is about the proletariat winning over people like you, state capitalist Mel.
Yes, I love state capitalism, apparently, according to you.
I don't know why repeating my correct statements back to me is like a zinger.
It's not correct, but fine.
All right. So we have now acknowledged that the Glorious People's Republic of the Democratic State of North Korea is actually a vassal state for China that they use to avoid direct military imposition.
Not a vassal. I mean, if you're going to keep lying to your audience, you can keep lying to your audience, and that's fine. People will know that you're lying.
Doesn't China have border skirmishes with India from time to time? Wait, on the left side of this map, it literally has lines of control. Here's an India claimed territory. Wait, how many thousands of square miles is this?
Well, India and China have been ruling over this particular part of the subcontinent for about 2,000 years. It's a very, very old conflict.
Damn, that's pretty crazy. Well,
that's what I'm saying. A lot of these conflicts that are happening in Asia historically
have nothing to do with geopolitics and are actually because of ancient tradition. Is that what we're getting at right now?
No. It's a combination of both, actually, and that's why that was the thing that I was trying to drive at.
There's no such thing as ancient tradition when it comes to geopolitics. Countries do what's in their best interest.
There's generational trauma that those people remember.
These are countries.
They're people.
Okay, wait, hold on. Was it the American invasion of Iraq geopolitical?
It was a lot of things. It wasn't just geopolitical. It's not all geopolitics.
What other explanatory variables?
Western hegemony. It's obvious.
That Western hegemony is geopolitics.
Yes, it is. Western hegemony is 100% geopolitics.
Yeah, so it's geopolitics.
But geopolitics is such a broad brush.
The fact that it's broad means it encompasses everything. But
you're using it as
politics,
but you're using it. It's okay, but you're using. The problem is you're using it as a catch-all term
Yeah, to
And
describe
you're
states acting in their own interest for the most
It's
part.
not just states, though. You're reducing it down to just a state apparatus. It's not just the state. It is also the actors within the state. The state actors are things you have to be accounted for. You
Yeah,
can't
and
just
they act
assume that it's the state.
geopolitically.
No, they don't. Not
American
every
support for
self-interest.
Israel, is that geopolitical?
Not every
Is
interest
anything
is tied to
geopolitical? Does that word
politics.
mean anything?
A lot of things that are tied to Israel are also with Zionism and religion. It's not
That's
just politics.
geopolitical.
No, it's not.
Yes,
Not
it is.
all-
Zionism literally describes the support of a state. How can that not be geopolitical?
Zionism wasn't just Zionism wasn't just about a state. It was about a return to a different era. It was about returning people to a land. It wasn't just a
And
state.
the land, they have it now. It's called Israel. And Zionism means a Zionist is a person who defends the state of Israel.
No, a Zionist is someone that supported a very specific movement. And so now Zionism as today is just someone that generally supports Israel. That's how we view it now.
That's what I just said.
That's not what the movement was focused on. Because you said that's what created Israel. And I'm like, well, that's not what created Israel. Israel wasn't just like Israel, for all intents and purposes, is a military base. We all know that. It's an apartheid state.
Israel's a military base, but South Korea isn't? You know, you all had a dictatorship on our account for a while until recently, right? We meddled very hard in South Korean affairs. We were very invested in making sure that you all were amicable military partners through the Cold War.
But the dictatorship was never owned by the United States. It was actually done independently by the Korean Central Intelligence Agency and Japanese fascists. But that wasn't the United States directly.
Oh, I see. Wait. Does America get to wipe their hands clean of every coup and every junta that takes place in countries we don't directly invade?
No, I'm just being factually correct here. Like, I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying
the
like
bad guy.
That's what happened. I'm not trying to win a dunk. I'm not trying to dunk on you or say that you're right.
We promised him resources. We supported him. We wanted a dictator because South Korea was our military base and North Korea was China's military base. Your country, as are half the countries on Earth, were just used in a proxy war between us and the communist bloc. That's what the Cold War was.
The Cold War wasn't just buffer states. It was actually subject.
What do you think NATO and the Warsaw Pact were? It was all about buffer states. That's a Cold War. We fight via proxies.
Well, the Warsaw Pact was a buffer state, but not every. Okay, so a lot of states become buffer states as things happen geopolitically. A lot of states become buffer states, but a lot of those states were actually not supposed to be. They were supposed to be independently held. Like that was the big controversy with the Soviet Union and the whole like the original definition of Tankie or whatever, like the Czech like Prague Spring and stuff. Originally, they were supposed to be independent countries.
I just can't believe you're like more of an American chauvinist than I am. You're like, no, America didn't have anything to do with what happened to South Korea. That was we did that to ourselves.
No, I'm not being a chauvinist. I'm telling you what happened. America is still largely influencing Korea, but there's certain parts where it did and certain parts where it didn't. The Japanese fascists had probably more of an influence in South Korea left over after the Korean War than America did. And after America,
what is the strongest influence in North Korea?
America definitely put those people in power, but they definitely walked away. And they just used. I would argue that Korea was more used economically by the United States than they were used militarily.
Nope.
Actually, the South Korea has a massively bigger, has a higher troop presence on the DMZ than the United States. But
yeah, because that's your proxy war. But I guarantee you, by the way, that if somehow a Chinese North Korean coalition started invading South Korea, we would be at your doorstep in 30 seconds because we want to keep our military bases there. Who do you think the strongest influence is in North Korea? America's the strongest influence in South Korea now, by far. So what about North Korea?
What do you mean? I mean, North Korea is supported by China, but like we don't even know if China would even support them if anything happened. That's like a huge fucking what if. Like we have no idea.
They literally invaded Korea to keep us from taking Pyongyang.
They didn't invade Korea. They actually supported the North at the same time. They didn't invade anything.
Well, one man's supporting the North is another man's fighting against the South. So that's really a matter of perspective. They sent troops into the country and they used those troops to fight against our proxy troops, and then they did it to hold the DMC.
Do you know how far they pushed into the South, right?
They got pretty far, didn't they? Before we kicked them back?
they got all the way to Busan. That's why they call it the Busan perimeter.
Yeah, and then we dabbed on them.
Well, it was the invasion at Incheon, and it was a lot more.
It's very complicated, the actual story of the Korean War, but eventually we did dab on them.
Well, we didn't actually. It was a bloody fucking stalemate. We didn't dab on anybody. Like, it was a slugfest. Like, when we pushed them, I believe, 40 something miles north of the current 38th parallel, and the United States was not winning, but the North wasn't winning either, because actually after the United States pushed into the war, China pulled their troops back. And the reason why China pulled their troops back is because the United States had a plan that was in the works, that there was a possibility that they were going to nuke Manchuria or nuke like the border between like China and the DPRK, like even after the retreat, to solidify China never entering the conflict again.
I'm glad nobody dropped nukes.
And cutting off North Korea. That was the original plan, and the war ended up going to an armistice because the amount of civilian deaths that were done on the DPRK were like massive, right? Like America dropped like more bombs than the entire than World War II in its entirety just on the DPRK. Anti-communist hit squads like brought out like Korean civilians that were taking food from North Korean soldiers or Chinese soldiers or just even like regular Koreans. And they were executed for just taking food. Like, it was a really brutal conflict where lots of people on both sides of the peninsula died.
And now that suffering gets to be lived out every single day of the lives of every single citizen of North Korea.
It's not, the suffering still happens in the South. Like, that war separated families. It changed the cultural landscape of both countries.
You can't just talk about the North and the South are comparable.
I'm not saying they're not comparable. I'm saying that you're missing that point. Families were separated, like generational trauma happened. Like, there's resentment by like the North Koreans don't necessarily hate the South Korean people. Their issue is with the government and the support of the United States.
Both groups feel that way. The South Korean people
the South Koreans don't necessarily hate the North Korean citizens. They have issues with the government in North Korea. It's sort of both of the same side.
Yeah,
both groups
the problem
of people
with the government's
don't necessarily hate each other, because for all intents and purposes, North and South Koreans are just Koreans. Like,
I never said they.
So I never
said they hated.
But you implicitly imply that when you say that, like, these people are just their own separate. You know what I mean?
The line is a travesty. All of Korea, there should be one Korea controlled by the South Korean government.
There should be one Korea controlled by whatever government the people want. I don't
considering
care.
South Korea's population is significantly larger than North, so I think any democratic
does not matter because they are the same people. You need to stop separating North and South Korea.
Wait, sorry. Just to be really clear, okay? I'm not a fascist. I don't believe in this mythological people, the people you keep referring to, okay? I don't know why you're trying to LARP like the great dictator shit here, okay? We're talking about states and state actions. If you're saying all of Korea should be made one nation and then all the people there should vote on their government system, that's great, that's cool. But I don't know why you keep talking about the people. You talked about it with China too, like, oh, their border disputes with India, those aren't geopolitical in nature. That's the people and their long-standing generational trauma. These aren't how countries work. And if geopolitics
that is how countries work. That is actually how countries work.
Countries do what's in their best interest. They're a conglomerate of a billion businesses.
You cannot take that out of the equation, Vosh. When you minus the actual like things that like groups of ethnic groups go through, it's like Rwanda. Look at borders.
We're not minusing what the ethnic groups go for, but what they do is geopolitical.
Okay, so
is Black Lives Matter political? Okay. Wait, is Black Lives Matter political? The movement.
Nothing to do with this. That has nothing
is the
to do with
movement Black Lives Matter political?
Pivot, you know that is a terrible fucking pivot. Shut
is
the
it?
fuck
Wait,
up with
it's
that
not
pivot.
a pivot. It's directly explanatory. Is it a political movement? Chat, I'm asking you. Chat,
disingenuous as fuck. You know that.
So wait, you're saying it's disingenuous because you don't understand what's happening. So
no,
Black Lives Matter is political. Is Black Lives Matter a product of generational trauma on the part of Black Americans? Chat, I want to see those yeses rolling in. Can something be product of generational trauma and political? Is it possible?
100%. It's both. Yes.
Okay,
but most
it's
of it
still
does
political.
come from trauma. Hell yeah, it does.
But it's
like
still
black
political.
people get shot by fucking cops. It's not, but the thing is you are being so reductive with this.
No, that geopolitics is a very catch-all term. That's the point.
It's not though. It's not.
You said it was broad earlier. Is it broad or is it not?
It is broad, but you can't just always say geopolitics for everything. You're basically just obfuscating and reducing my point by just saying,
the point I'm trying to make, the point that's interesting to me is that your anti-imperialism.
You do not give a fuck about nuance because you just want to say, oh, well, now it's just geopolitics.
The problem is that your anti-imperialism, unless it comes to what China is doing, and then all of a sudden it's the magical influence of like cultural, you would never do this. If somebody said, hey, America's involvement in Iraq was a geopolitical move, you would never quote tweet that and say, actually, no, it was a product of America's trauma after 9/11.
You have no idea what the fuck I would say about that.
No, I know you would say something stupid. I have enough information to say that with great certainty. You need to stop
fucking assuming things of people like you're the all-knowing fucking human being because you're not. This is why people don't like to talk to you. This is why people in real activist circles don't take you seriously.
My career is suffering tremendously for it, I know.
Real fucking leftists and real organizers do not like you.
Mel, you're not a leftist. You aren't a leftist. Nothing about your political program has anything to do with the emancipation of the working class.
They literally think you do not know what you're talking about because you are reductive with your arguments. People just want you to not be reductive. People just don't like when you're reductive to the other experiences of these things that happen.
China maintains control over North Korea because it wants a buffer state, and that's a part of a geopolitical process, is not being reductive. It's just me being correct and you being mad.
Getting out of it being a buffer state. Can you explain? Like, do you know anything about this part? Like,
I evidently know significantly more than you do.
Well, you're not explaining it very well. So
I already did. It's a buffer state that China maintains because they don't want to share a border with American military bases. I explained it. That's the most right thing anyone's ever said.
Do you know the definition of a client state?
I already answered Wait, are you going to do the Mike from PA thing? What's a TIF? What's a TIF? Sewer socialism. Come on.
I don't know who fucking. I don't care about Mike from PA. Do you know the definition of a client state?
Do you know the definition of a buffer state?
The definition of a client state.
Wait, can you explain to me how it's relevant to the conversation, and then I'll maybe entertain you with an answer.
Because a client state and a buffer state are very similar things, but they act in different purposes. So can you tell me what the definition of a client state is?
I'm very ignorant. Can you explain? Can you elucidate the difference? So you're saying North Korea is a client state of China?
Yes, I would say it's more of a client state, not a buffer state. A buffer state implies that.
What are you Googling?
What?
I heard keyboard strokes, and I haven't heard them in a 2-hour convo. Are you Googling client state definition?
I mean, I want to have it up so when you read it, I can make sure we have the same definition. What's wrong with that?
Can you give me the definition? Why would you Google before saying what it is? You can't. Wait, hold on. I'm going to look up client state. Wait, I know the answer to this, but I want
us to read this at the same time. I think it would be fun. Why are you getting so mad that I Googled something?
Like, why are you losing your shit over it? You were about to explain what... Okay, okay, sorry. It was just funny. It's just funny, and I'm learning what a TIF is. Okay, hit me up.
Is this really funny? Because I just typed in Google...
A client state is a state that is economically, politically, or militarily subordinate to another more powerful state. Okay?
Oh, man, that's the same definition I got. All right.
Well, yeah, because you Googled it. Yeah.
Do we agree on this definition, Bosch?
Yeah, well, I didn't Google it. I just remembered it.
Do we agree on it, though? Do we agree on this definition?
What do you mean agree on? Wait, do you want to invent a new definition?
No, I mean, do we agree on the definition?
Here's a buffer state. Wait, anyone, does this sound familiar? A buffer state is a country lying between two rival or potentially hostile great powers. Now, can that apply to North Korea? Is there any problem at all between South Korea and China that they would want to physically buffer?
Is client state and buffer state the same definition?
Do you think both of them can apply to the same country?
It depends on the situation. What is a client state?
Well, if the situation is that a client is if a country is A, subservient to another, and B, also lying between two rival countries, it might be a client and a buffer state.
Can you explain to me how North Korea is subservient to China? Can you tell me how they're being
You were the one who brought up client state.
Well, I'm just asking you, how do you, if we agree on...
So you brought up a term... Wait, hold on. You brought up a term... You made a claim...
No. If we agree on the working definition, then you can agree. You can say, hey, you can define client state.
Mel, you brought it up. You made the claim. You argued North Korea is a client state, and now you're asking me to prove it. What are you doing?
I'm not proving anything. I'm saying,
I know you're not. Why would you make a claim and then demand?
No, we're going through the definition.
I think
and
North Korea is more of a client
applies to
state. Can you explain to me how that's the case? What are you talking about?
So we know we both Googled client state.
You made a claim that was, by the way, had nothing to do, because client state and buffer state are not mutually exclusive. My characterization of North Korea being a buffer state is objectively correct. It might serve that definition better than any country on Earth right now.
Correct? How do you know that you're objectively correct, Bosch?
I'll leave that one to the historians. Do you have any other subjects that you want to run over?
Do you have a source about the relationship between China and North Korea?
Let's do you want to maybe embarrass yourself on the geopolitical interests of any other countries in Southeast Asia? Is there anything else?
I don't think you don't. I mean, it's the same thing with Luna Oy. Like, you don't know anything about Vietnam either.
Luna Oy's video on me was embarrassing. She spent 2 minutes misinterpreting an argument that she had vaguely seen on Twitter, and 18 of them talking about a person who wasn't me.
Again, when people that are from those parts of the world try to talk about
nice liberal identity politics, when women of color speak out, you should listen, Vosh. Really? Damn, you should be running your own racial sensitivity meetings at businesses.
How is that liberal?
Do you know what liberal idpol is?
Of course I do.
You're like, what's D'Angelo? What's the name of that lady? You're like, you should be running those white fragility classes, you know? When you hear a voice of a woman of color, you should speak out. Nah, I prefer to let the arguments do the talking, personally.
I don't necessarily think that you just need to listen to everything, like, people of color.
Why don't I just assess the arguments? Why do I have to make it a race thing?
That's not what it's not a race thing. It's that when people are actually from that part of the world and they have experience or they understand the intricacies of like their own people and their own groups that are part of the world.
Luna Oy was wrong. She talked in her video and said incorrect statements about Vietnam. I Googled, like, she made strong claims about the interests of their people, and it turns out she was wrong.
Lives there. She lives there, and you told her she was wrong.
Wait,
and she lives there?
Do you think you should take anecdotes from one YouTuber over Pew Research data to form opinions on a country? Did I just hear that correctly?
So you're more willing to take an American or a Western-centric study. No. You're more willing to take a Western anecdotal study over someone who actually lived in Vietnam.
Bro,
that just
Pew
seems
Research
ridiculous.
is totally Western. You should just listen to this YouTuber. Yeah, no shit, because I'm not an anti-intellectual.
So you think it's anti-intellectual to not listen to someone that's
to
from
ignore
the country
data
and just
because one person said otherwise? Hey, wait, can I ask you something?
Sure, go ahead.
So Luna Oy said that Vietnamese people don't like the market reforms that their country has been undergoing since the 1990s. But the data says that 94% of the Vietnamese people support market reforms and want more of them.
Because
that's a greater majority than that's a great hold on. That's a great hold on. That's a greater majority than any other country that was listed on that study by an exponential factor. So
they have no choice.
So wait, so you're saying Luna Oy was wrong? They do want it, but they have no choice but to want it?
Well, they have no choice because the only way for them to compete in the market is to open that market. But it doesn't necessarily mean that people want
So they want those reforms so they can compete in the market.
They're being held at the standard of the Western market, so they have to do it to compete or else they'll starve.
Interesting. Do you hold this criticism for the reforms that have been pushed in Africa due to the Belt Road Initiative?
They're not the same situation. They're 100% different.
So the Vietnamese people democratically deciding to introduce market reforms is actually worse than China imposing economic initiatives on African countries.
Not even remotely the same argument.
Well, you're bad with comparisons, so I know. You are all over the place. So to answer your question broadly, no, I don't listen. No, I don't take single anecdotes over data.
I've been trying to understand, like, where your framing is for where you're getting your arguments, and every time I press you and ask you a question to make sure I get, like, you understand the nuance, you just repeat yourself.
Your nuance was ignore data because it's from the West.
I'm not saying that Western data is bad. I don't believe that all Western data is bad. That's just ignorant.
You just said, would you really take Western data over the anecdote of one individual?
No, I didn't say that. I meant, like,
wait, chat, did she not say that?
That's not.
You know this is being recorded, right? My memory is not that bad.
Of course I do, but you're misinterpreting everything
No,
that I'm saying.
did you
You're taking
misspeak?
everything literal, and you're just going through
Everything
every
literal.
single
When
statement,
I
and
said
if you find
something wrong,
every
you took
single
it
thing that's
literally. You
told
should have
in-
interpreted it allegorically, like a dance.
You're interpreting everything I'm saying. Literally, you're not giving any sort of
You
implication
complained
or
that I
brevity to what I'm
interpreted what you said
say.
literally. You're like beyond parody.
Beyond parody. Okay, so Fuentes, Groper, Red
Oh,
Fash,
well,
Tankie,
when
Genocide,
Fuentes doesn't like data, he calls it Jewish, and you call it Western.
Beyond parody. What else are you going to say to me, Bosch? How condescending can you possibly be this entire
I don't know
call?
what you are in this case digging your own grave right now. So I'm just
I don't think
watching.
I'm going to lose anything about this. I think I'm going to lose nothing after this conversation.
Well, no, because you
Neither
don't have anything.
I don't
You're not
have
like some
what?
giant public figure, and the people you associate with are as stupid and reprehensible as you.
I don't think
So
I'm a
no, you're
public
not going to
figure.
lose anything, okay? And I'm probably not going to gain much either, because anybody worth talking to and having listened my content already knows you're a worthless piece of shit, and the kinds of people who don't like me are the kinds of people who would already agree with me on that.
Okay. I love listening to people that sit in a chair and just yell
Chair
boring
sitting?
politics, calling other people piece of shit. Like, what have you done? Have you
Well, I
organized?
substantiated the argument is what I did.
Have you organized, Bosch?
Yeah, I'm organizing these nuts.
All right.
I like this is, by the way, this is the maximum coat posting from everyone who gets blown the fuck out of my stream. You're just a fat white boy. You have you even done a revolution? Oh, have you done a revolution, Mel? Mel, how many revolutions have you led?
No,
How many
I wasn't-
notches have you scraped into the hilt of your pistol?
I wasn't comparing. I was just asking you if you've organized. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I organize
Why can't-
hundreds
why
of
can't-
thousands of
why-
people every day. What do you want from me?
I'm just asking. Like, I'm not trying to dunk or feel better or worse or try and make
Just
myself
curious,
look
you know,
like
just
I'm
bringing it up with no
smart.
implications whatsoever. Just it had nothing to do with what we were talking about. I was just asking, you know. So anyway, to answer your question, no, random anecdotes are not better than studies. If I believe that, then I would have to believe everything Candace Owens says about Black America. I'm not black, so I guess I'll just take her word for it. You could run that down. It's not a good way of forming ideas.
That's not how being intersectional about race works.
You don't know anything about intersectionality.
Okay, so a trans person of color has no absolute idea of how intersectionality works or the.
Wait, you
or
just
how,
did the liberal impl again. I'm a trans
liberal.
woman of color. Of course, I
didn't say it
understand
that
this
way.
academic concept.
No,
Dude,
I didn't say
you
that I
are
understood.
so many
I
things. You're a
I said
Nazi.
you
You're
are.
a liberal. You're everywhere. You're incredible. I don't know how anyone could live with as much cognitive dissonance as you seem to exhibit in a single conversation. You are unfathomable. Like, I'm not kidding. This is like Tim Pool's stuff. I've talked to a lot of people. I've probably talked to more people politically than anyone online, except for maybe Destiny, like in terms of the debate shit. You are really up there in terms of how incoherent your beliefs are. My personal belief, you don't actually have beliefs. You just say things.
I just say things.
Yes.
Okay.
I do think that. It would be too generous to you to suggest that you've thought enough about your ideas to even be inconsistent. You just say things.
Man. I just say things.
Mm-hmm. It would be like interpreting the random flailing of a toddler as a poorly implemented exercise routine.
Oh, so now I just run around and flail as a toddler because I don't have any sort of brain.
Why do you keep repeating my dunks? You're like doubling how hard you're being owned. Why?
No, I'm not actually. If this is being owned, this is like fucking pathetic.
Well, I know because you live in like
or even been in real life. If you think this is a dunk, like you're absolutely like fucking a sad fucking. This just like it's terribly pathetic.
Okay.
Like,
so
again,
do we have any final memes that we want to run through? As far as I can tell, you've walked back on everything empirical. I mean, once you start saying stuff like you interpreted my statement literally, I don't know where to go from there.
I kept trying to understand where you were coming from. And then you just parrot a definition that you just always say, but it's so vague that it's hard to work with. Like the fact, like, it's not that I didn't understand what you were trying to say, it's that it was just very vague. And so I wanted to kind of make sure that I understood all the framing of your argument and all the words that you were using and make sure that I had the same definition as you. And for some reason, me just asking those questions and verification of what you believed in it makes me stupid, which is pretty ridiculous, actually.
Hold on, wait. I just got a DM in Discord from a black trans autistic woman in a wheelchair. They're saying that they've lived in 63 countries over the course of their life and that you're wrong about all of them. Are you are you in a wheelchair, or is that a point of privilege that you have over this individual?
That's incredibly fucked up to say.
What, are you disagreeing with them?
I'm not going to entertain that. That's just
Mm.
incredibly fucked up for you to
Yeah,
like even
it's real fun when you can try to use it to win arguments over white boys, but then when somebody makes fun of you for it, it becomes fucked up. Yeah, take your crybaby civility politics bullshit onto the next stream that'll have you on. There'll probably be a dozen people who want to talk to you about how you owned me after this convo.
Not really. I mean, I wanted to just talk to you. I wasn't really hoping that I didn't really have a lot of high or low expectations. I was kind of going into it
I didn't
just,
know
you
you
know,
were an ableist too.
I'm not really ableist, but that's kind of you because you've been pretty, you know,
Speaking over
condescending.
the
But
lived experience of a wheelchair-bound person, Mel, I don't know.
that's, I don't know. That's just, I didn't expect you to
Chat,
say
was
that.
I wrong?
That's
Did
pretty,
I not hear Mel be ableist there? I'm pretty sure that I heard that.
well, I have never been ableist this entire conversation.
I appreciate you coming on.
Okay, so I'm gonna do this for the chat here. We got I will sit on here for until the hour. Can you do that? Do you want to do like an AMA? Like, let's ask some questions. Let's do some memes or whatever. Let's do a casual. Let's stop calling each other dumb fuck. And
No.
does anyone have any? Does anyone have any?
This conversation was a direct product of the respect with which you deserve to be treated. There is no context in which my chat would treat you better than I have. I was generous with you.
I'll take questions from chat. I'll be honest. What,
Okay.
you think I can't handle it? You think I'm just gonna back out or whatever?
No, I think you can. No. I think you can handle it because I don't think you believe any of this, and it's just games to you. But you can live tweet responses to their messages in chat if you really want to.
Why would I live tweet that? I don't want to.
Because you
Why do
won't
you
be on
assume
my
that-
stream.